Probably know it by heart now, right? Nearly?
Almost.
Anyad eva hor vidyaya.
Anyad eva vidyaya.
Nyada hor vidyaya.
Nyadhura vidyaya.
Iti shushruma dhiranam.
Iti shutrumadiranam.
Yena stad vichakshire.
Nastat vichachakshire.
Okay, Narendra, you have a go.
Okay. Anyad ivhur vidyaya.
Anyad eva hor vidyaya.
Ad ahur avidyaya.
Nyada hor vidyaya.
Iti sushruma dhiranam.
Iti shushruma dhiranam.
Yenastad vichakshare.
Yena stad vichakshire. Deepa, you're on.
Oh, am I? Anyad eva vidyaya.
Anyad eva hor vidyaya.
Nyadhura vidyaya.
Nyada hor vidyaya.
Iti sushrumadiranam.
Ishushruma dhiranam.
Yenastat vichachakshire.
Yena stad vichakshire. Narendra Prabhu, you like to read the translation, please?
The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of Nisan.
One comment just on this translation, that these conclusions are coming from very wise people, you know, so that's our authority. The Vedic authority is the wisest people. These are their conclusions. These are the conclusions of the wisest people. These are not conclusions of just some, you know, ignorant materialists. These are like great sages, divine beings, you know, that are either God or empowered personalities that God has empowered. Very special, very rare personalities. So we're hearing the conclusions of the most wisest people in the universe. So that's who we're tapping into in the Vedic knowledge. Srila Vyasadeva, who's known as Bhagavan Vyasa. So he's a literary incarnation of God, Bhagavan Vyasa. He compiled the Vedas. And also you have like great sages like Narada, many conclusions given by Narada Rishi, and Asita, Devala, so many, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbakacharya, Vishnu Swami, Shankaracharya, so many, Brahmaji, you know, so many, the four Kumaras, Chatukumar, so many of these great sages, you know, they have valuable inputs into the Vedic wisdom, and who better to hear from? They're perfect beings. Like I've said before, they don't have the four defects of a conditioned soul. So there's no mistakes, no imperfect senses, no cheating propensity, and they're not subject to illusion. So this is who we should be hearing from, not persons that have all these defects. Then it's simply a waste of time. So this is real knowledge. We're here. This is the real knowledge coming from these great sages. It's the absolute truth. Okay. Number 16. Deepa, you'd like to read that?
One should become an unalloyed devotee of the Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, and serve him with attention.
Yeah, rapt attention. That's a Very important couple of words there, rapt attention. Those words, actually Prabhupada uses those words in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, when talking about the hearing process, Shravanam. One should be hearing from the spiritual master, hearing about Krishna with rapt attention. And then it's mentioned there in the first canto, if one hears with rapt attention these messages about Krishna, one can see Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam. So one will get direct experience of God if one hears. So if we hear very attentively, then it can come to a point where we can actually see God with our eyes. I mean, normally, of course, everyone wants to see God before they're ready to believe in God. You know, I don't believe in God. You show me God. I want to see God, then I'll believe him. Otherwise, I don't believe. I only believe in what I can see. You know, how many people we hear say that? I only believe what I can see with my eyes. Okay, but I mean, you can see God, but you have to have purified senses, purified eyes. You can't see him with ordinary material eyes. So how to purify? We have to start with hearing. With very purified hearing. What's purified hearing? Like it's mentioned here with rapt attention, you have to concentrate. The mind is not wandering off any other things. You're just fully attentive. That reminds me of one story that I can't remember all the names, I don't think. There was two brothers. One was a bit unusual. He had the ears of a cow. So he was known Gokarna, because go means cow and Karna means ears. So unusual. I can't remember off the top of my head the cause of that. Obviously, there was some karmic thing. Oh, Johnny's saying something. What's that? Oh, okay. Okay, there was a woman that wanted to give birth to a child, but she couldn't give birth. So, you know, oh, she didn't want to give birth. She didn't want to give birth. So the husband gave her an apple, some fruit, in order to get pregnant. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's enough information. So anyway, this woman, she didn't want to give birth to a child. Her husband was a powerful sage, so he had all kinds of powers. So he invested within some fruit the soul, you know, and so whoever would eat that fruit would get pregnant. So, you know, normally the man has to have sex, and through the seminar then it goes. But there are other ways other than just through sex and through seminar that the soul can be transported through. Like sometimes in yagyas, they'll offer a sweet rice kheer, and in that kheer, the woman would eat that kheer and she would become pregnant through eating that sweet rice. So, and they're offered in the yagya. So there are other ways of transferring the soul into the womb of a woman other than just through sex with the man. So anyway, I don't want to talk more about that for now. We'll just leave it because it's just delaying things. So anyway, she didn't want to give birth, so she gave that fruit to a cow, and the cow ate it. And the cow gave birth to a human but with the ears of a cow, because the mother was a cow. So, and but it was very saintly, because coming from the sage, you know, the sage had arranged this, so very saintly. And he had, and another fruit was given. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So her sister was already pregnant. And so the sister gave birth to a child, and she took the sister's child as her own, because obviously, you know, she doesn't want to get in trouble with her husband, the sage, right? You're like, where's the kid? So she took the sister child as her own, but the sister child was a nonsense. Was a nonsense. He real bad person. I think Dundukari or something like that. Dundukari, and he was really evil. So anyway, he performed many sinful activities, and when he died, he became a ghost. Because if someone is very sinful, then they're not eligible to get another physical human body, so they're kept just in the subtle body. Their activities have been so bad that they're not given another human body. So that's one reason why some people take the form of ghosts after they die, because of sinful activities. So then they're not eligible. So he became a ghost. Then he appealed to, he knew his brother is very spiritual, very advanced, very saintly. So he said, you know, please help me. You know, I've gotten, he, in his ghostly form, ghosts can communicate still sometimes. So he could communicate with his brother Gokarna. He said, please help me out here. So he said, I'll recite Srimad Bhagavatam. That will purify you. I'll recite Srimad Bhagavatam, and you just stay in that area, and the whole time. So it takes 7 days. It would take 7 days to recite the whole Bhagavatam, because originally the Bhagavatam was heard in 7 days from Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, who was cursed to die. So that original recitation happened in 7 days. So the ghost stayed in a bamboo, and you know, bamboos have knots in it, have knots in the bamboo. So the first day of talking about Krishna was completed, and then there was a cracking noise everyone heard. One knot in the bamboo had cracked. And other people, they didn't know that there's this ghostly brother of Gokarna was in the bamboo. Gokarna knew. So, and then day number 2, another crack. And 3 crack, 4 crack, 5 crack, 6, 7, right? So the 7th day, the final Bhagavatam is completed. Then this Dundukari had become completely purified of all sinful actions, and he got liberated. He got moksha. So from hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Gokarna was saying, just see how wonderful it is that this very sinful person, my brother, he got liberated by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, but so many other people were there, brahmanas, pious brahmanas and everything like that, sages and stuff. And they said, okay, but we have a question. We also heard for 7 days, but how come we didn't get liberated? We're still in this body, you know, we're still here. You know, and that's an interesting question. You know, he got liberated. Why didn't we? So he said, my brother, he was suffering so much, and he was so desperate to get out of his miserable condition, that he heard the Bhagavatam with rapt attention. Here you go. That's why I mentioned the story. he was just so concentrating on every single word. You know, it was important to, you know, deliver him from all of his suffering. So, I mean, it wasn't a very pure motivation that he wanted to get free from suffering. He wasn't really doing it in love for Krishna. But still, the fact was that he heard with great attention, with great concentration, and he got the benefit. So then the sages, when they realized that, you know, they have to hear very attentively, so they obviously, their minds were drifting around a bit. So they said, well, okay, can you recite the whole Bhagavatam again? So he recited for another 7 days, and this time they all heard with rapt attention, and they all got liberated. All the sages got liberated. So that's the key, rapt attention. So whatever we're doing, and this we can apply, like here it's talking about just generally engaging in devotional service with rapt attention. Of course, there's 9 processes of devotional service. Hearing is the first one, Shravanam, which we've talked about, but also Kirtanam, you should do it with rapt attention, you know, when you chant. I mean, this is something I also struggle with, because when I'm chanting japa, my mind is thinking about, oh, what gardening am I going to do today? What veggies am I going to plant? You know, I have to do some weeding and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, obviously, you know, it's different depending on who you are, what you're going to be thinking about. But we tend to think about so many things, or yesterday what happened, or tomorrow, or planning for the next year, or, oh, I don't like this person, or whatever like that, or, well, I really like this person. You know, we're thinking about people or things, or so the mind is going off here and there. So that means we're not really hearing, we're not really chanting with rapt attention, you know, chanting and hearing. So that's something we have to work on. Otherwise, we're not going to get the full benefit. If we do that, you know, our mind is wandering and we're not trying to do anything about it, that's called namaparad. That's called offensive chanting. If we're inattentive, there are 10 offenses to the holy name. And it said and then finally, after the 10 offenses, it says it's also considered an offense to be inattentive while chanting. And that inattentive while chanting is said to be the mother of all offenses to the holy name. Because we're not attentive, all the other offenses come from that. It means the first offense is to blaspheme devotees. The second offense is to consider the names of the demigods to be Keturah, independent name Lord Vishnu. Third offense is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. So like that, it's 10 offenses. So those other offenses are only going to happen because we're not attentively hearing. Because attentive hearing means you're vibrating your tongue and it's going in your ears. And there's no mind involved in the process. You're just chanting and hearing, chanting and hearing. There's no mind question. There's no question of the mind going here and there. That's attentive chanting. But inattentive chanting means you're chanting and whatever, but it's not really going in because your mind is all over the place. But if it's attentively chanting, there is no mental chatter. It's on the, like Prabhupada says, this chanting is on the transcendental platform. It means it's beyond the mental platform. There's no mental platform. Does that make sense? Probably not, because we're on the mental platform. But it's beyond the mind. It's beyond the mind. So, and I've had some experiences where for short periods, I have actually gone beyond the mental platform, and it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And unfortunately, I didn't sustain it very long. But for whatever period of time, it was just ecstatic. It was completely ecstatic. And there's different things that caused that to go beyond the mental platform. But yeah, there's no thoughts. There's no thinking. There's no thinking going on. So it's it is possible. So I mean, what I'm just saying is that it is possible to go beyond the mental platform, to go beyond just what we normally, the mind is accepting things and rejecting things. It's called sankalpa, and sankalpa means accepting and rejecting things. That's what the mind is doing. So, but attentive chanting, yeah, and then attentively remembering with rapt attention, remembering. So, like all the processes, you can do that. Serving with rapt attention, dasyam. Archanam means worshipping with rapt attention. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord or the devotee with rapt attention, like that. You know, friendship, sakyam, with rapt attention. Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything with rapt attention, like that. There's 9 processes. So all of them, well, ideally, we want to do whatever we're doing with rapt attention. And it said you can become perfect. You can become completely successful and perfect. It's called siddha. Become perfect through doing all 9 processes, or 8 or 7 or 6, or you get the idea, or even 1. So it said that Parikshit Maharaj, he got liberated just through hearing. Shukadeva Goswami, he got liberated just through chanting. Prahlad Maharaj, he got liberated just through remembering the Lord. That then remembering, then Archanam, worshipping, that Prithu, King Prithu Maharaj became liberated through worshipping the Lord. Vandanam, offering prayers. Akrura, Krishna's cousin, he got liberated just through offering prayers. He offers some, in Krishna Leela, Krishna book, in the book Krishna book, there's one chapter named Akrura's prayers, very beautiful prayers he offered to Krishna. So it said he got liberated through offering these beautiful prayers. And Dasyam, which is Hanuman, servitude, he got liberated through serving. Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, got liberated through Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of her husband, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Padasevanam. Then Sakyam, Arjuna, got liberated through friendship, making friendship with the Lord. And Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything. Bali Maharaj surrendered everything. He got liberated. Like that. So whichever process we're doing, however many of them, we should try to do with the best quality. The idea is it should be quality. So, and quality means, you know, with great attention, with rapt attention. And just like, you know, if your life depended on it, you'd be very careful, wouldn't you? Often it's like that. If you're doing something that's, you know, we see that, right? Like when you're shaving, right? When a man shaves, he's usually very attentive because he knows it's dangerous. So like that, somehow or other, we've got to get it in our head that, you know, we should really concentrate. I mean, we see that Parikshit Maharaj, he heard also Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention. What brought that on, that he was so attentive, that he knew he was going to die in 7 days? So that's a good way to get yourself to be attentive in whatever you're doing, is that realize that I can die at any time. I don't know. I mean, in one sense, we're not as lucky as him. He knew he wasn't going to die in less than 7 days. He knew it wasn't more than that, but he knew it also wasn't less. He wasn't going to die tomorrow. No, he had 7 days, so he had that much time. But do any of us know that we're not going to die today or tomorrow even? You know, well, of course, we hope we live a long life, but we can't guarantee we're going to live even till sunrise tomorrow. So if we were conscious of that, if we realized that, then that would make us more serious about our hearing, about our chanting, things like that. And I mean, some of us may have had experiences when we're in a life-threatening situation or something like that, and then suddenly your chanting becomes really powerful or something like that. You know, you're put in a dangerous situation or something like that. Then suddenly the chanting becomes super excellent. You know, so there's different things that can bring that on. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, this number that we're talking about now, 16, that's Mai Chanena Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhacharani, which means constant and unalloyed devotion to me. That's what it says in the Bhagavad Gita translation, constant, unalloyed devotion to me. Mai Chanyena Yogena. So if we look at the Sanskrit yoga, we know what that is. This cha ananya. Ananya is an interesting one. Anya means other. Anya means other. Ananya means no other. So that what that's saying is, you know, you're just fully focused on Krishna, on loving Krishna. No, you don't have any other object in your of love. You just love Krishna. That's called Ananya Bhakti, Ananya Yogena, or Ananya Bhakti. You just focusing your service just on Krishna, no other. There's no second or third object in your attention and your mind. That's Ananya. So, and then Bhaktir Avyabhacharani. So this word Avyabhacharani means without any break. So Ananya, so there's no other object, just Krishna, just focus on Krishna, and also all the time. That's what without any break means, right? It means not, I focus on Krishna on Sundays. No, but also, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you know, every day, you know, so every day. So that's Bhakti Avyabhacharani, without any break. So uninterrupted, without any interruption. So that's recommended here. This is knowledge that should be cultivated. This is real knowledge. Actually, this part of knowledge of unmotivated, uninterrupted, you know, completely focused bhakti. This is the culmination of knowledge, really, this one. Of all what we're going to read is 18 points of what Prabhupada's saying is real knowledge, what Krishna's saying is real knowledge. This point, number 16, this is the climax. This is the pinnacle of knowledge. If you have the knowledge of every other point here, all the other 17, but if you don't come to this point of unalloyed, uninterrupted bhakti, love for God, then really all the other knowledge you have, which is knowledge, is a waste of time too. That seems pretty heavy to say that, but that's actually what the acharyas say. You know, like the first one is to be humble. Okay, you're very humble, but you don't love Krishna, then what is the meaning of your humility? Because humility means that I am small and, you know, God is great. And, you know, because we realize that God is so great and we are so helpless and small and we need him, then you should obviously love him. If you don't come to that point, you know, I'm very humble, but you haven't come to the point of loving him, then what's the point? It means the penny hasn't really dropped. It means you haven't really got the knowledge. So if you climbed up the first rung of the ladder and the second rung of the ladder and the third rung of the ladder and the fourth rung, but you haven't got to the top of the ladder, then what's the point? You haven't reached the top of the ladder. Of course, when you reach the top of the ladder, when you actually love God, then every other thing you did then has meaning and value. I mean, I know some people that before Krishna consciousness, they were a Buddhist. So then that culture of Buddhism actually had value at that point. That before they became a Hare Krishna, they were a Christian. So then that Christian philosophy and culture had value at that point. That, so you know what I'm saying? That you were step 1, step 2, step 3, and you led to surrendering to Krishna and loving Krishna. Then at that point, whatever else is good. But if you're very rich and very famous and very powerful, and you're very religious and very pious and a very nice person and a real gentleman and all these things, but you're not a devotee of Krishna, then it has no meaning, absolutely nothing. It has no value whatsoever. But if you come to that point, once you come to that point of surrendering to Krishna, then your money, yes, very good. Then your knowledge, your culture, and everything, very good. Then it has real value. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. Like we said before, right? What's 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals still 0, but you put the 1 in front. So if you have Krishna there in the front of the equation, then everything else has some value. Otherwise, it doesn't. It doesn't have any meaning. Oh, you're very humble, you're very tolerant, you're very compassionate, you're very clean, you're very merciful, you're very detached from your family, all these kind of things, but you don't have any love for Krishna. Oh, well, that's all useless. So yeah, this is the conclusion, the climax, the pinnacle of all knowledge, the essence. As in Sanskrit, the sharam. Sharam means the essence. So does anyone want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is the crux of everything. But the other parts are, I think, that part of the knowledge is, like, as you said, there are different rungs of the ladder. So maybe they are lower side. So you're just starting, so you will start there because you can understand. I think to understand that point, you have to go through so many things before you have to start, right? You want straight away, you can't jump to that. So I think probably those are the steps in between. They are the different rung of the ladder, which you have to climb before you reach that particular point, I guess. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't it important, like, to be God conscious, as in, even if not specifically Krishna, I mean, but they are God conscious and they are doing all, as well as they can or as good as possible.
Yeah.
But according to their,
like the first commandment, 10th commandment of the Bible is love thy Lord with all thy heart. So if you're doing that, if a Christian's doing that, that's perfect. That's this point. That's the same point. So every scripture, and if it's genuine, if it's a bona fide genuine scripture, will give this point to love God. They might have different names, Jehovah or Allah. That's okay. That's no problem. But that's the main point, to love God. And Prabhupada explains that's what religion really means. Religion means to follow the laws of God and to love God. And that's the ultimate law of God. What's the ultimate law of God is you should love God. So that's what it really means. But if you say I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, and you don't really love God, then it really has no meaning if you don't love God. Well, one time I had these Jehovah's Witnesses came to the door. It's one Christian sect, Jehovah's Witness, would have heard of them. They came door knocking, and they said, can we have a talk to you? Tell you our philosophy. I said, sure, no problem, as long as you don't mind that I'll talk to you my philosophy too. But they don't normally expect that, but they got a bit of a shock. So I'll hear from you, but you have to be prepared to hear from me. And then anyway, I heard from them first. I was very humble. I'll hear from them, and then so they told me I asked them, you tell me the essence of your philosophy, because I don't have all the time in the world. So just tell me the essence of your Jehovah's Witness philosophy. I said that there will be an Armageddon. That means God is going to come and destroy everything, except for all the members of their group. They quoted a number, I think they said 144,000 or something like that. They said God is going to come destroy everyone else except for the Jehovah's. Interesting philosophy. And then God's going to make the world into paradise. He's going to turn the whole world into a paradise, and they're going to live forever on the earth with their families. And I said, what? I said, if you love God, wouldn't you want to live with God? You don't want to go to this kingdom of God. You want to stay on earth forever with your families, not with God, but with your families. They said, yeah, we want to stay with our families, not with God. And I was just shocked. There's supposed to be religious people. They actually have no love for God. They want to use God to kill all their enemies. That's all. God is just there carrying out their orders. Basically they're God. And they tell God, you get rid of everyone else except for the Jehovah's. You get rid of all of them. They're all our enemies. Get rid of all them, and then make me and my families live forever on this earth, and make into a paradise, please. So basically, God has become their servant, and they're the master, and they don't love God. So at that point, I really I questioned them on that. I said, if you love God, wouldn't you want to live with him? And they said, no, we just want to live with our families. At that point, I sort of lost interest with them and was a bit peeved off.
Share
and said,
them.
thank you very much. I have to go now.
Did you share with them any of the Krishna conscious philosophy at all?
Well, I just got on their case. I got on their case that, to be religious means to love God, and you're indicating to me that your goal is not to love God; it's something else. It's to have sense gratification forever with your families. And I said, that sound like real philosophy to me, real religion to me.
But do they have any document, or like we have Vedic culture, we have Upanishad, or Christians?
No, it's all speculation. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not.
Some guys had some dreams related to the Bible. Some Christian had some dreams, and he wrote them down as dreams. And they follow this guy like he's a guru. I can't remember his name, Joseph Smith or something like that, or he was maybe a couple hundred years ago or something, just recently. It's not a very old religion or anything, but it's like an offshoot from Christian, and it's all speculation. It's just mental speculation. It's not real religion. It's not dharma. It's not real religious principles. It's adharma. Everything they said was adharma. It's all irreligious. Everything they said, there's nothing genuine there.
The way they treat other people, for example, I've heard some stories that if your family, say your family is part of that church, and then one member goes out of that, so they basically outcast him. They basically cut everything, and he was telling that his mother died. They didn't even, they just told him that she died. That's it. They didn't, say, come and, we go through ceremony or something. So, I mean, if you don't treat your, people properly, then how can you be so, why you are saying that? I mean, you're chosen people or something, you're gonna, live forever. So, I mean, yeah, that seems like flawed. Yeah. And there's no authoritative source, and yeah.
Yeah. So we're not for anyone, and we're not against anyone. We just judge, by one criteria. You love God, or at least you're trying to love God, or you don't. So we don't care. When you can call it whatever you like, Christian, Hindu, or Muslim, or whatever. But it's not. We're not anti any religion, but we're promoting real religion, which is to love God. And we don't care whether you call it Christian, Hindu, or Muslim. But it has to be based on that principle that you love God, or you're trying to, or you recognize that you need to love God. Anything that's called religion and promoting something that's against that principle, where you don't love God, is we immediately kick that out. It means that's called. And in the second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Dharma projata kaitava tro paramo namatsaranam satam. It's called kaitava dharma. It's called cheating religion. So, and Bhagavatam says, kicks that out. It just kicks out all kind of cheating processes. Any kind of cheating process, we just completely reject it. We reject all cheating processes. And, so this is important. This is real knowledge, to be devoted, that every soul is part of God. Mm-hmm. And then the question, person would ask, why is it so important? Why do you keep it going on about having to love God? Why is it so essential? So why is that? What would you say if someone says, why is it so necessary, so essential to love God? Why do you keep going on about you have to love God? What would you say? That's just your religious belief. That's your dogma. You're putting on us your religious dogma. This is your sectarian belief that you have to love God. It's not at all necessary, So, but what would you say to combat that, to deal with that? What's the logic? Because it is based on logic. Why the soul? There's the soul and the supreme soul, and we should serve the supreme soul. Why is that?
Well, I would usually just based on how we are. So I'll just say it's like you and your children. If they don't love you, how would you react, or how would you feel? And because it's said that God created us in His image, and we are pretty much a reflection of Him as well. And so if your children don't love you, then how would God feel if we as His children don't love Him?
Okay.
That's
nice.
I think
Narendra, that's nice. Thank you, Deepa. Narendra, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I mean, if somebody who doesn't believe in God, how would you do that? I mean, people, you have to just, I mean, how they can understand is probably looking around themselves, things happening and looking. I mean, you think about, simple things like, your body or something so complex. So people who don't believe in God, they have to have something which is perceived by senses. They can see and they can, think about it. So if you look around yourself, the trees growing, we take it for granted. How is it happening? I mean, who does that? Everything is so, everything is so systematic. You you're born, how you're born. There is a system he has created, you know, and how you grow and all those things around you, how you develop, all those things. So if you think, if somebody questions that, who has done that? It's not very simple stuff, right? You have to, somebody must have done. It's not from the theory like single cell theory and, you know, everyone just born from then they, you know, theory of Darwin where they actually evolve. That's going to take millions of years. Somebody has done it. It's so complex. It's so systematic. So you have to first, I mean, the person need to first understand his surrounding, because that's where his questions will start, I think. But when you take everything granted, you walk across a tree, it's been cut, or somebody is dying. Yeah, you're not thinking. I mean, you're not asking question. What is happening? Why so complex and systematic around you? Somebody must have created. It's not by chance. It's never can be chance. So, I mean, that's the point where you have to actually take that. From that point, I think you have to, that's the point where they will be able to understand, because they are so, you know, they are all, whatever they are learning through their senses. Everything is material. So I think that would be a, but, you know, there are so many people don't even ask questions. So that's the,
yeah.
I don't think it's science anyway. Science is like God. It's, you know, to the vast majority of people. Yeah.
The authority.
Science, there is the God science. I mean, you can, if you look at your body itself, I mean, I'm amazed. I mean, you can just, how can you,
so complicated
body? I mean, such a, you know, complex machine. We can't even understand 100% today. So it's not by chance. It's I mean, that's the thing.
So everything you've both said is very good. Another angle to look at it from is that God is the whole and we are part. We are part. So what's the relationship between the part and the whole? What relationship does a part have with the whole?
We have to cooperate and serve and support.
Yeah, to cooperate and serve. Like this hand is part of the whole body. So what is the purpose of the hand? To serve the body, right? The hand is, if this hand doesn't want to serve the body, that is dysfunctional. That's useless. That's called asar. That's called asar. If the hand doesn't want to, no, I'm not going to put food in the mouth anymore, you know, then immediately the hand becomes useless. It's like being cut off. So if the part doesn't want to serve the whole, that's not normal. That's very unnatural. The natural thing is the part serves the whole. So our relationship with God, serve as a servant of God and loving God, is very natural, because we're part, he's the whole. So that's just very logical. That's very natural. That's why we should love God. I mean, love God means to serve God, because if you love someone, then you do something for them. So, and it's explained that's the nature of the Atma, the nature of the soul, which is called Dharma. So the Dharma of the soul means the natural characteristic. Dharma, Prabhupada translates it as natural characteristic. That not so, he doesn't use the word religion. It's not really different than what the modern connotation of religion is. It's not a sectarian thing. Dharma means natural characteristic. So that characteristic that you can't separate from the object, that's Dharma. So, and you can't separate it. So with that understanding, what's the Dharma of chili?
It's to be hot.
Hot. What's the Dharma of sugar?
Sweet.
What's the you know, anything. What's the Dharma of a table?
For us to put stuff on?
Yeah, to keep stuff off the floor. The stuff that you don't want to put on the floor, you put on the table. So that's the Dharma of the table, to keep stuff off the floor. You know, like that. You know, so what's What's the dharma of your glasses? You know, to help you to see. That's the dharma. So everything, any object has a dharma, has a natural characteristic that you can't separate it. If the chili was sweet, if the sugar was hot, then no, it's impossible. It can't happen. You know, what's the dharma of fire? You know, also heat, light, like that. So everything has dharma. So okay, the soul. What's the dharma of the soul, of the Atma? It's service. That's our dharma. But then you say, well, I'm not loving God. Well, I said love means service, right? Are you not serving? You serve your body, right? Remember, said put food in the mouth. Give a nice bed to sleep on. When it gets tired, the body says, oh, I need to sleep. So you immediately serve the body by doing that. The body says, I'm hungry. You immediately do some service to get some food. The body says, oh, I want sex. So you find a suitable person like that. So we're always serving. And then you serve your boss at work. You serve your country. Doesn't it? You serve your government. They tell you you have to take the vaccine or whatever. So we serve the government. Pay your taxes. So we serve the dog, like we're serving our dog. We take him for a walk and everything like that, feed him and everything. So we're always serving. So we can see that the natural characteristics of the soul is service. So, but by all those services we're doing for our body and family and country and so forth, are we completely satisfied? No. Oh, no, we're not. So what are we missing? That we haven't connected with serving the Supreme. So our nature is service. I mean, if you don't want to serve God, then you don't have to in one sense, but you still have to serve because that's your nature to serve. So like Prabhupada said, either you serve God, G-O-D, or you serve dog, D-O-G. You see, if you reverse God, it becomes dog.
Yeah.
So, but you can't not serve. It's impossible. You try not to serve. You can't. It's 24/7. We're serving. That's what we're made to do. That's our dharma, is to give service. But then the question is, if you don't serve God, you're not satisfied. You know, because that's our nature. Because we're serving all temporary objects, but we're not serving the real object of service, real object of love, which is God. And we see that as soon as we serve God, then you become completely satisfied. You become completely happy. And that's indicating that that's our real dharma. These people that say, I don't need to serve God, you know, but they're not happy. They're not peaceful. They're not satisfied. They're dysfunctional. But as soon as any of those persons come to serve God, then they're going to be completely fulfilled. Otherwise, we become like that, you know, the hand, you know, cut off. Does that make sense? Anyone want to say anything about that? But all those other points you said also, I mean, like that, you know, that the children come from the parents, what Deepa said. So it's like that. They're part of the parents. They are expansions of the parents. So their natural role is to serve the parents, is to love the parents, because they come from the parents. So that's sort of an example of that same point that I made. And I mean, of course, Narendra's point is very good too, because you have to convince people in the beginning that there is a God. Otherwise, you can't really, you know, talk about that you have to serve God unless you've established the point that there is a God, you know, because a lot of people don't even believe there's a God, you know. So what he's saying, you know, that everything is just so complex, it can't come about by chance. There must be someone in control. There must be someone, that intelligent being that created it. It can't just all come about by itself, by random, you know, chance and anything like that. You know, evolution. So yeah, you have to convince people that there is God, and you can do that logically, convince that there is a supreme being, and then from there, you know, it's logical also that we should serve that supreme being, that we should love that supreme being. That's very natural. That's very natural.
Actually, what you said in the Thursday class up here about that Maya actually creates trouble for you if so that you naturally start to seek you know, seek that connection, and then at some point I get, you know, that Maya even helps you to find that connection. Think to that effect you had talked about in the Thursday class. Yeah, that was yeah.
She is compared to the prison warden, the prison charge. So, well, what is the job description of the person in charge of the prison?
To keep
them quiet, let them
Well, keep them inside. Well, you could say that.
and correct them, I guess.
To
Corrections.
correct them. Yeah, to correct them. I mean, it'd be pretty bad if that was the only part of the job, was to keep them inside. But another that is part, but that's not the whole part. The other parts is that, and the main part is to try to rectify the mentality that put them in there in the first place. They had some bad mentality that caused them to go in the jail. They broke the law or whatever. So, and through punishment and through education, to rectify them, that the person, through being punished and suffering, that what happens goes on is called prayaschitta in Sanskrit. Prayaschitta means atonement. So within ourselves, we feel bad. You know, I wish I hadn't done that. I shouldn't have done that. We acknowledge that I did wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I wish I hadn't done it. I'm never going to do it again. I'm never going to do that again because it causes me to suffer like that. So these kind of thoughts, that's the idea of what the prison in charge wants to go on in the head of the prisoner. That first accepting that I've done wrong and that I shouldn't have done wrong and I won't do it again. And I'm going to be an honest citizen from now on, I promise. I'm going to be honest and like that. So, and then if the person, you know, really tries their best and comes clean, sometimes they can actually be let out of the jail early. You heard about that? Actually be let out of the jail early. What do they say? It's something about on good behavior, on grounds of good behavior or something like that. So anyway, they have some rules like that. If the prisoner really shows a change of heart, if he shows a genuine change of heart, then they can actually be let out earlier than what their prison sentence is indicating. And then that's what Durga really wants, what Maya really wants, is that we have that change of heart, that we are servants of Krishna and we've gone against that. So, but that we've come back to our senses, acknowledging that Krishna's our master, we're a servant. Then Maya's meant to bring us to that point, to come back to the service of Krishna. And how she mainly does it is through punishment, as what a prison does. And then but punishment enough, I mean, on its own is not complete either. You need education. And that is where, you know, Krishna descends, you know, different incarnations of Krishna descend to the material world. and it's recorded in the Vedas. So the Vedas is promoted by the sadhus and the gurus like that, by devotees, propagated like that. So the idea is, you know, when we're suffering and through that we become humble, because we're originally so proud and thinking we're God and we can enjoy and control the material world. But through Maya's suffering, we become humble, and then we become, like we said, rapt attention. We want to find out how to get out of the suffering. So then we become receptive to hear from the devotees. And then when they say, "Oh, excuse me, hi, just hold on a minute. I've got a book to show you. You know, have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Please, you know, read this. It's really good for you. It'll get you free from all suffering." You know, so then the person may, you know, take the book, you know, may hear. And I still remember when I first met a devotee, you know, 30 years ago, you know, I was suffering, and not because a bad family or anything like that, or, I mean, I had nice parents and nice money-making opportunities and so many things, but I was just disturbed by my own mind, and I was suffering due to my own mind and my own body and other living entities and so forth. You know, the Adhyatmik Klesha, Adhibautik Klesha, Adhidaivika Klesha, and confused, you know, what's this all about? Birth, death, old age, disease. It seems horrible, and like that, all the suffering in the world and everything like that. So when I met a devotee, I was like that. I was a bit, through suffering, I was a bit humble, and then I was very receptive. And then he spoke to me about why it's wrong to kill animals, was one of the first things he said, and I was very receptive to that. And then he told me about the soul, that we're more than just the body, that we're the soul, and I was receptive to that. I was, wow, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. The first person ever told me these things, you know. And then he said, well, there's a whole community of people like me, just half an hour away. After I was with him for 2 days, I was so impressed, mainly because I never met anyone so happy as him in my life. I never met anyone had so much knowledge as him in my life, and I never met anyone that was so peaceful as him in my life. And I was thinking, I want to be like this guy. I'm the opposite. I have no happiness and no peace and no knowledge, you know. So when he said there's a whole community, half an hour, I said, what? There's more than one like you? Can you take me there? I'd never met anyone. And then he says there's a whole group. So he took me to the Hare Krishna farm. So that's the purpose of Maya, to bring about, you know, through suffering, bring about humility. And then in a humble state of mind, if then we get to have the sadhu sangha, the satsanga, then we can seriously get out of the material world. And it's said that when Dhruva Maharaj was going back to Godhead, the Vimana, the spiritual plane with the Vishnu Dutas, came to pick Dhruva up to take him to Vaikuntha. This is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto. Then when they came to pick him up in the Vimana, then, I mean, he's only a small kid. He's only a small kid and 5 years old. And it's a big plane, you know, and how to get up into the plane, you know. So it's said that he stood on the head of Maya. Stood on the head of Maya to get into the plane. So it means she helped him at that point. Like, no, I'm so proud of you. You passed the test. I'm so proud. You know, you've surrendered to my master, to Krishna. You know, go. You know, go. I'm happy for you to go. You know, she helped him. So, you know, that Maya's not all bad. You know, if you and if you surrender to Krishna, she can actually help. So, just like Maya rendered a very nice service to the devotee to help him go back to Godhead like that. So she has different activities, but she's also a devotee. She's also a devotee of the Lord. See, in Christianity, it's a little bit different. They sort of see there's this Satan thing, this person, that there's this someone that's gone against God, and he's like out of control, and he's like really anti-God and everything like that. But actually, Maya's not like that. It's not like some anti-God person or anything like that. No, she's very devoted to God, but she just has that service of people that want to forget God. People that want to forget God and go against God, she helps them to do that. You know, if you want to be lusty and greedy and angry and everything, then she's going to give you what you want. But she's not that she likes that. If you want to forget God, she'll help you to forget God. But it's not that she's going against God's will and out of God's control that's happening. No, it's fully under God's control. Maya's doing that service as a service to the Lord, because God doesn't interfere with the free will of the living entities. So if the living entities want to forget him, want to imitate him, then he'll help them. So he says, Maya, you do that work. That's what they want. Okay. You take them to the material world, and you fulfill their desires, and you punish them also, and help them to, you know, be rectified like that. Any thoughts?
When you say Maya means, I mean, you don't have the knowledge, right? I mean, that's what it is, isn't it? You have the...
Yeah, Maya is an energy, illusory energy, but Maya is, like every energy, is controlled by a person. Like the sun energy is controlled by Vivishvan, Suryadev. The moon energy is controlled by Chandra. The air energy is controlled by Vayu. The water energy is controlled by Varuna. So like that, there's the rain energy is controlled by Indra. So every energy has a person that controls it. So you have energy is called Shakti, and then you have the control of it, Shaktiman. So that illusory energy is controlled by a female embodied soul named Durga or Parvati. So, you know, the wife of Lord Shiva. She's the goddess in charge of the material world, and her husband also is a controller of the material world. He's the destroyer of the material world. And together they sort of rule the material world, you know, Durga and Shiva. So yeah, there's the energy and the person that controls the energy. So we talk about Maya as an energy, but we also talk about Maya as a person as well, in charge of the energy.
What does Maya mean? Maya means, I think, is it
I mean, it has different meanings, but I mean, Maya just means energy, really. Maya just means energy. I mean, the spiritual energy is called Yoga Maya. And the material energy, this is getting more detailed. So normally we just say Maya, but you can be more detailed. Okay, the energy working in the material world is called Maha Maya. And the energy working in the spiritual world is called Yoga Maya. So, but the Yoga Maya is also an illusory energy, because Yoga Maya, that energy, which is also Yoga Maya in the spiritual world, is her form is Purnamasi. So Purnamasi she's a gopi, a cowherd girl. She is Yoga Maya. She's the controller of Yoga Maya, the spiritual energy. And Yoga Maya makes the devotee in the spiritual world forget that Krishna is God, and making the devotee think that, like, Krishna is your son, like from Yashoda, Mother Yashoda, or Nanda Maharaj, or Devaki, Vasudev. They're thinking Krishna's my son. They're not thinking Krishna's God. That's going to spoil their relationship with him as their son. I mean, you can't be thinking at the same time that he's my son and he's God, because that's contradictory, that he's God and your son, you know, so you can only think one or the other. So, because you don't want to spoil the rasa in the spiritual world, there's the rasa, the bhakti rasa, the very sweet relationship. So that the relationship doesn't get spoiled, Krishna doesn't want to spoil the relationships with his devotees, so he makes them forget that he's God. So Maya will make Arjuna forget that his friend is God, you know, or make the gopis forget that their boyfriend is God. You get the idea? So there's an illusory energy in the spiritual world, and there's an illusory energy in the material world. But in the material world, the illusory energy makes you forget God full stop. You don't think about God.
So Maya,
or if you do, you're thinking there's someone else that's God other than Krishna, or that you're God. That's also Maya. That I'm God, or everyone's God. Let's make everyone God. That's also Maya. That's also the influence of Maya. You know, anything other than the real God, that's the influence of Maya. Or that you completely forget God, like some atheistic person. Or, yeah, like that.
so basically Maya takes your knowledge. I mean, if you don't have it, it's taking off your knowledge, right? It's
it takes our knowledge
away from the real knowledge, spiritual knowledge, basically.
Yeah, so you can read about that in the end of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how that Maya, mentioned there as lust, takes away our knowledge. Takes away our knowledge.
I've heard
We
also,
forget that we're the soul. We forget God. We forget our relationship as serving God. So all those things are forgotten. The knowledge of God, the knowledge of the soul, the knowledge of the relationship, which is bhakti. So all those things, Maya takes away all that knowledge.
So if you're not in spiritual knowledge, you are under the control of Maya. That is ignorance, basically.
Yeah.
That's good.
So yeah, this is the perfection of knowledge, bhakti. And it's amazing, you know. This is the highest knowledge, to have a loving relationship with God. And it's amazing that this highest knowledge, like the pure devotee, like Prabhupada, just gave it out to idiots like me, you know, who are just rascal people, you know. So that's the amazing thing, that not necessarily that you get all the other knowledge first before you come to this top knowledge. I mean, like we said, this pure love for God is the highest knowledge, and it's all these other step 1, step 2, step 3. But it doesn't always work that you're going to go step 1, step 2, step systematically. That you can go straight to the top, and then the others automatically get filled in if you're very lucky. And we see that in terms of an elevator, right? If you in a skyscraper, you can go up the stairs, floor 1, 2, 3, or if you go to the elevator, you bypass 1, 2, 3, 4, and you go straight to the 100th floor. So it's like that with the devotee of the Lord. Out of their mercy, out of their love and mercy and compassion, can reach out to the suffering souls and just immediately offload knowledge about God and love for God to that soul. and they can immediately be elevated to that knowledge of a loving relationship with God, even without all the prerequisite ones that are normally there, like humility and pridelessness and cleanliness and detachment from family and all these other things. So, I mean, that's so really summing up, that's just mercy. That, yeah, ordinarily, yeah, step 1, step 2, step 3, and finish with loving God. But yeah, we often see it's not always like that. And why that happens is it's just mercy. And what is mercy? Mercy means you don't deserve it. You don't deserve something you don't deserve, and you got it. If you deserve it, it's not mercy, isn't it? If you deserve it, that's not mercy. Mercy means you got given something you don't deserve. That's mercy. And in that sense, you know, speaking for myself, I'm a mercy case. You know, you know, I got something I didn't deserve. You know, it's just that loving devotee that he reached out to me and picked me up. You know, it's like you're in the bottom of a well and someone comes and just drops the rope down and pulls you out. You know.
But Krishna allowed you to receive that mercy, or that, you know, because a lot of people, even though they hear it,
yeah,
but they're so resistant.
Yeah, the other thing is, unless you're deserving, does he give mercy to everyone?
Yeah, so that's there too. I mean, it's good we bring this up, but yeah, so it's not just one-sided, the devotee's giving mercy, but the other person, there has to be some kind of qualification there. Like I mentioned, you know, I had experienced suffering, so that had made me a bit humble. So that is part of knowledge, to be humble. So some qualification was there, but I definitely wasn't pious. I wasn't pious. I mean, I had been engaging in sinful activities. So, I mean, I wasn't a brahmana. Definitely wasn't a brahmana. And
Karma.
what's that?
Past life, you must have been very, very pious or something like that.
Yeah, so something may have been there, but yeah, it's a mixed bag. But one time, devotee said that. I mean, it says in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, you can check 7th chapter, text 28, that if one has acted piously in previous lives in this life, only then can one engage in devotional service with determination. So a devotee questioned him about that and said, Prabhupada, it doesn't look like a lot of the devotees were pious in previous lives or in this life. Doesn't look like it. So how did we come to devotional service? And Prabhupada said, I created your piety. How about that?
Wow.
He said, I created your piety. That's the power of the devotee. He can make some impious, sinful person pious just by his desire.
That reminds me of 1866. I think that's also says that, isn't it? Something like Sardharm Parityajye Mamekam Sharanam Raja.
Yeah.
Aham Sarv Papebhyo.
Yeah.
Get rid of all your sins.
Yeah. So actually, Krishna's power is invested in the devotee to remove the sins. That's not the devotee's power, it's Krishna's power, but coming through the devotee to remove the sins, which makes the person eligible, adhikar, to receive bhakti. Like my Guru Maharaj wrote me in one of his letters, he wrote me, he said, when Prabhupada first met me, he wrote to me in saying that when I first met you, I prayed to Krishna, may this good soul appreciate the value of Krishna consciousness. And then he said to me, and I did. And he said similarly, this is my Guru Maharaj talking to me. He said similarly, when I first met you, meaning me, He said, I prayed to Krishna. May this good soul appreciate the value of Krishna consciousness. And I did. So it's not just our own goodness that brought us to love God, but it's the mercy of so many great personalities that they've prayed, to Krishna for us, like that, and just tried to help us, given maybe sometimes you could say gallons of blood, work so hard to help us. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada's guru, said he had an institution called the Gaudiya Math, like Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's gurus was called Gaudiya Math. So he said, I desire that every single member of the Gaudiya Math should be prepared to spend hundreds of gallons of blood for every individual corpus of human society. So he spoke it over 100 years ago, so he's using some old English words like corpus. So it means that every individual person, means giving gallons of blood. What does that mean? The devotees give their time and the energy and the effort and trying to convince us and help us and train us and educate us and like that. So, that's mercy. And by that, we can be elevated to loving Krishna, although, on our own and our own account, it might not happen very quickly, but with some help, it does like that. So anyway, somehow or other, we've got to this point where we're developing love for Krishna through chanting and everything. So we're very fortunate, and we try to do it like it's saying here with as much attention, rapt attention as possible. And it's something we struggle with to do whatever our services are with more quality, work on the quality. One time Prabhupada said, now it's time to boil down the milk. He said, actually, now we've done enough preaching. Now we should just work on our own devotees that we have and boil down the milk. What does it mean, boil down the milk? You condense it, make it sweeter. So what does that mean for us? Try to become a better devotee. Try to chant better. Try to serve better, whatever like that. Boil down the milk, become sweeter. Become, quantity is one thing, but then quality, work on the quality, improve the quality. So that's something, and that's never ending. I mean, how much can you improve the quality? You can go, talking about love, how much can you improve the quality of it? That's forever. Even now in the spiritual world, every moment Radharani is serving Krishna more better and loving Krishna more. Mother Yashoda is loving Krishna more. Every moment they're improving, going higher and higher in the quality of their love, the quality of their service. That's never ending. And that's exciting. It means that you're never going to become bored in bhakti. You're never going to, I was like, I've read Bhagavad Gita, finished. End of story, finished. And that's not like that. Spiritual things never like that. I know people that have read this 100 times, 200 times. You could just go deeper and deeper and more and better. And, there's so many different levels of love. It's just unlimited. It's never ending. And that's exciting. Because one thing I don't like personally is boredom. I don't like being bored. So, but that's one thing, spiritual life, you're never going to get bored. Whereas materially, it's always, before Krishna consciousness, I was always bored. Either I was, anyway, I better stop talking. But that's also, like the talking never stops as well. And the spiritual world, forever, the devotees are talking about Krishna. Forever. So thank you very much once again.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry.